If something's inevitable, does that mean you have to live in permanent fear of it? The answer is no. This week we talk about how to create a survival kit for recessions. So what is this thing that has everybody worked up outside of course, that markets, i.e. stock markets, are struggling right now? Well, it's a recession. And all its related terms, be it stagflation, recession. Let's talk about first and foremost, what is a recession? Well, a recession technically is 2 quarters in a row of negative GDP growth. First thing I'd say is that's every bit as arbitrary as saying a 10% market decline's a correction or a 20% makes a bear market. It's something. We have to create some guideposts, but don't get too hung up on it. Don't also get too hung up on thinking that the need to predict one or be aware of one has anything really to do with being a good investor over time. For one thing, you're not going to time them. Bernanke stood up in front of Congress in January of 2008 and said, don't see a recession on the horizon. He's a bright guy. You can think whatever you may think of him, but he did not see it coming. It was only a year later that we knew we had really gone through with one. It had been announced. And of course, by the time it had been announced, we were near the market bottom within a couple months to be exact. That's the tough part, is their inability to be predicted. The good thing, some facts to know around recessions in general, is they don't happen all that often. And I think this is critical because there's so many subconscious connections that I see people make, i.e. in this case, a recession is inevitable and therefore I need to be permanently living in fear of it. Those don't follow, but I see it all the time. And if you look around, you do too, because they're the newsletters constantly telling you the great collapse is around the corner. Use all your assets to go buy, gold or crypto, whatever the case may be. Selling fear all the time. In reality, there's only been 9 recessions since 1960, and most of them have been relatively brief. 2008, still very fresh in all of our minds. That was quite literally one of a kind outside of the Great Depression back in the 30s. And so that, I think, is an important thing to keep in mind, again, is living in perpetual fear or hoarding in amounts of cash or gold in preparation for something that rarely happens is not going to get you where you need to go. A 50% pullback from today is still take you back to a level that's about 3 or 4 times higher than we were in 2008. So for all those people who've been waiting for the next shoe to drop for 14 years, not even sure they would have made any ground. In fact, they probably would have lost a lot of money. And so perspective, again, so key. The other thing about recessions is important to keep in mind is that there's a path through. And so there's a lot of important things we can control. This is our survival kit we wanted to cover. We've touched on these in pieces through a number of commentaries, but just as we've all heard a lot of different cliches over time, it's important, particularly when the markets, the media get so loud, to remember what are our truths that have helped us through such times in the past. The biggest one that we come back to time and time again is you can't be a forced seller during a decline. What does this mean practically speaking? Well, you need to have a little bit of cash on hand, and or you need to have some income coming in. For everyone who's like, I'll just hoard cash, again, I would remind you, most corrections, even though they happen every 18 months, don't last long. There have only been 8 recessions in 60 years, 9 with COVID. And inflation has steadily gone on all the time. And so you need to not let something that is a relative anomaly keep you from losing ground to something that is permanent in the form of inflation, which brings us to income. Now, for a lot of you, maybe, hey, I'm mid-career, I've got time. For those of you who are nearing retirement and in retirement, that's why we emphasize cash flow off your portfolio. Dividends, rents, bond payments that'll be there for you through good markets and bad to be able to help get you from point A to point B. They may even enable you to buy some distressed assets, which is point number 2. How do we look at these moments not just as something we're subject to and have to live in fear of, but actually could be excited about and could be an opportunity? Buffett has said in a myriad of different ways, something to the effect of great wealth is actually built during bear markets, not bull markets. And what he's talking about is you want that great opportunity. It's going to come at the least opportune, scariest moments in time. You can't do that, again, to bring it back to a practical level, without 2 things. Number 1, diversification. You can't average down if you're all down, as I tell clients. And so Owning a bunch of stuff is diversification in one respect, but not for purposes of weathering a recession, not for purposes of being able to buy distressed assets. So owning 1,000 stocks that are going to correlate to the stock market at a great level is not diversification in the way that we're talking about it. We need some things that are going to hold up for us that we can sell to take advantage of those opportunities in the scary moment, which comes to hurdle number 2. We got to mentally be prepared to do that, to do the thing that everything in our body, everything in our friend groups, the press is telling us is foolish, is stupid, is scary. That is the opportunity, and that is the mindset we need to embrace. We've talked about mindset a number of times. We talked about it within the Isla roller coaster video from a few months ago. You know, that seatbelt is that income, that diversification that we talked about. You need to have a good partner that's going to help hold you accountable to this. We'd love it for it to be us, and for many of you, we know it is. But you need to have someone that can help check those emotions, to help walk you through what is really there. Well, I think it's important to sell before it all goes down. Well, if it's all going to go down, that would sound smart, but is it? And if everything went down to zero, have you really accomplished anything by going to a different thing? The collapse of the economic system would suggest no. And so, again, something that sounds really reasonable on a blush, particularly in a highly emotive state, a partner who can walk you through, we do this all the time with people, to say, well, like, what would that mean? And what would you do with that? And how do you know that this premise is correct? More times than not, once you walk people through it, they say, yeah, you're right. That's not the right action. Second thing is know your limits. Have a partner that can help show you your limits. We walk people all the time through what is your risk profile. Studies show if you spend more than 6 months outside of your risk range, you're probably going to snap. If you don't come mentally prepared, as the SEER instructors we would do events with would talk about, to know and accept that, yes, this is going to be scary and this is what my emotions are going to tell me to do, but I'm just committed to doing this other thing because I know it's the thing that gives me the best probability of success, then you're going to fail. So getting those pieces into place with, again, partners and process, so vital to making it through. But the good news, again, is rather than having to live in fear of these recessions, with the right process, mindset, understanding of history, far from being something you need to be a fear of, there's something that actually can help you and your family get to your financial goals even quicker. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but it's the truth. In summary, embracing that athletic mindset is so key. Understanding that failures, setbacks, not permanent, right? Even if they are inevitable, they're one moment in time, but what's the next play? Are you tax loss harvesting? Are you averaging down? That's the question investors need to be asking themselves in those moments, and not letting the emotions of the past keep them from the correct decisions for the future. With that, thank you. We are always here for you. I get asked all the time, how are you holding up? People must be giving you a horrible time. I'm telling you the honest to God's truth. 99 out of 100 phone calls we get are people checking on us and not the other way around. So can't tell you again how much that means to me and the team. We so enjoy and are honored to be working with so many with you. Thank you. We'll talk soon.